All right, let's look at the favorable findings here. So the evidence shows that a qualifying event, injury, or disease had its onset during your service. Service treatment records show lower back pain on January 10th, 1975. So you filed a claim, right? You need a current diagnosis, current symptoms, and a nexus. They're conceding that there's a qualifying event and some mentions in your service treatment records. What we're trying to do here is make the link between this disability we're filing a claim for here to these dates. This is called the nexus. This is the link. So you need a current diagnosis over here. You need to have symptoms. That's where the rating comes from. And you need the nexus to get across and go back to these service treatment records. And just as an aside, this service treatment records are from 1975. That's a long time ago. So that in itself is a problem. I'm not saying it's unwinnable. I'd file a secondary claim if I was out for 45 years. They're just easier to win because the VA is going to be, wondering what happened in 75, 76, right? All the 90s, 2000s, 2010. Like what happened in this big, gigantic swath of time? You were fine. That's kind of the way the VA looks at it. If we don't go in for treatment and we don't file a claim, then there's no disability. That's just the way they look at it. It's infuriating, but that's what we have until we change the system. So that's working against you as well. But moving on, you have been diagnosed with a disability. VA contract examination from QTC dated January 26, 2023 shows a diagnosis of lumbosacral spine, degenerative disc disease, invertebral disc syndrome, and scoliosis. Back to the three things you need to win a claim. Current diagnosis. Right there, you have been diagnosed with a disability. There's your current diagnosis. Current symptoms, they're not addressed on here because this claim wasn't approved. They don't even need to address the symptoms. That comes after you bring the current diagnosis and the nexus. What is missing here is the nexus. So that's why favorable findings is misleading. They'll say like, these are favorable, and they actually are favorable. I guess that's why they do it. But like when you get denied, it's like, why don't you tell me what I was missing? Because this clearly to me, without a doubt, is missing a nexus. You have this, it would be helpful. You don't have this, go get a nexus. That would be helpful, but they don't do it. So we have to kind of figure it out. So this means if you won the diagnosis, you don't need to work on the diagnosis anymore. Should a diagnosis be enough? Yes, in real life, civilian world, a diagnosis is pretty much what people work on. When you have a treating physician, what's wrong with me? Whatever I'm doing, I need a diagnosis. Okay, now I know what's wrong with me, and now we can fix it, or it's not fixable or whatever. When you're filing a claim, you have to add in the nexus, and that's what makes this confusing. If you want to learn more about the VA claims process, check out my boot camp. And if you need medical evidence, like in this case where he's missing the nexus, hit up my med team. There's an email address in the description.